Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and this, of course, is my little buddy, the Child, and we want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down and back in for some Mandalorian content. I know I'm a Mando shirt on. I got my Joy to the Galaxy shirt, which features an ornament like child on it. I saw this at Target and was just like, yup, we're buying this. And while I don't typically break out holiday stuff this early, it is technically after Thanksgiving, which is when it's okay. And happy belated Thanksgiving to everybody. Hope you enjoyed your turkey and your stuffing and your football yesterday. Now it's Black Friday. It's the day after Thanksgiving. And I'm now okay with holiday stuff coming out. And I opted to put this one on, which I was saving for our December reviews today because, well, Mr. Dave Filoni just gave us a giant Christmas present. Just what he did. It's, no big deal or anything. It's just one of the best episodes of The Mandalorian. It just, spoilers, happens to feature one of Star Wars fans' favorite characters that never had a live screen action debut before. Ahsoka Tano. And it's just glorious. So why don't you pull up a chair, man, take a seat. We are getting ready to dive in spoiler free into The Mandalorian Chapter 13, The Jedi. And I had to kind of throw that little spoiler out there at the beginning and say that we get Ahsoka Tano because the name of the episode was The Jedi, which would have given it away. So, spoilers. We're going to talk about Ahsoka, even in the non-spoiler review. And look, I don't think that's really that big of a spoiler, right? We knew Dave Filoni was directing this episode. We knew that there's pretty much no way he'd let anybody but himself debut Ahsoka into the live-action, Star Wars universe. And there's also, I don't think, any way that Jon Favreau was going to let anybody but Dave Filoni introduce her. So much so that Dave's not just directing here, he's also writing here. And like I said, it's a big old Christmas present for us, man. It was everything I wanted and then some. I think the show in general has set a really, really high bar. And when you know that you have Dave Filoni directing an episode that is most likely, and then as you watch, find out, does indeed debut Ahsoka, you had a high bar to pass, to get over. And I tweeted this out. I thought Dave Filoni, he cleared that hurdle, that high bar, like a Jedi during a high jump, man. Like, his way up here, he cleared it with feet to spare, man. This episode is just wonderful. And it's not just because Ahsoka is in this thing. We will get to Ahsoka, but I want to talk about all the wonderful things that Dave Filoni does with this episode outside of her, because this is, reminders, The Mandalorian. It's Din Djarin's show. It's not Ahsoka's show. And I say that because I've been trying to do this review. This has got to be like the 7th or 8th take I've taken. I can't seem to get through it tightly. And I think it's because I keep diving into the Ahsoka stuff so much. I'm just like, I love it so much. Forget that I have a spoiler review that'll come after this one. So we're going to save Ahsoka for the end of our conversation. We're just going to start with Dave Filoni. And what he does with this episode is really, really strong. From a writing standpoint, like I said, this is it's the first episode of the season that Jon Favreau didn't write himself, and I think it made sense to let Dave write this one because it's his character, right? And while the Ahsoka stuff is very strong, we will get there. Everything that Dave Filoni is doing in this episode really enhances the experience. And whether it's the writing of Ahsoka and working her into the Mandalorian's world, the story and elements that you get for the Mandalorian and the child, they're very, very strong. This is obviously an important episode to this character in particular. It's the first time you're going to see him interact with someone else who's Force sensitive, who, is a Jedi. And all of those things, Filoni weaves together really, really tightly and is able to give us moments that have lots of exposition in it, almost like a data dump to a degree, where it's like we're giving you all this information, but contextually is putting it into the episode at times where it doesn't feel like you have a character who's just telling you all of these things. It feels like it's natural to, the conversation and things that are going on. And the whole sequence of, the child and Ahsoka meeting and interacting, I you're a hardcore Star Wars fan, you look for things that bring you back to the feelings of things that you had in the past. At least that's what I do as a nostalgia fiend. And Filoni gives us like Dagobah inspired vibes during this whole bit where, Ahsoka is introduced to the child, and watching those two interact was wonderful. And like I said, the story for the child is massively important in this episode, and I love the way Filoni weaves that into the fabric of the Mandalorian universe. And what he gives the child to do in the episode is great. He gets your typical cute, wonderful moments all over the place when he's on screen. He has wonderful moments with, Din Djarin, that father-son type connection that they have. You get like a real nice father-son type moment early in the episode, and then obviously just throughout the episode, you feel everything that the Mandalorian is feeling. And that's one of the other things that I love about this is he doesn't like to be sidelined per se, and there's an element to him having to be sidelined as, Ahsoka's trying to figure out more about him, and, they're kind of communing, through the Force. Din's just got to kind of hang out. He's not very good at it. And I love giving those things to those characters and kind of working with them in that way. And then on top of the story stuff that I think Filoni does a really nice job with, the action in the episode is great. The stuff we get with the Mando, classic Din Djarin stuff, man. Really good space western stuff. He gets a scene with Michael Biehn where, there's just all this back and forth going on between them and very minimal talking. If anything, the only one that's really talking during that sequence is Biehn's character. And those are the things that you love with The Mandalorian, and that exist through all of these episodes. And you kind of have to remind yourself that it exists in this episode because you get so caught up with the Ahsoka stuff. But, the things that he does from a character standpoint, the way that he approaches Ahsoka, the way that he first interacts with Ahsoka, the way they work together in the episode. Really, really, really good stuff. And then visually, so much of this episode is visual storytelling, and having a wonderful setting and backdrop for that is super important. And you get that with Caladan and the planet of Corvus. And look, Corvus is a forest planet, so I had a very particular image in my head of where we were going. And it is not what you probably think. There's very little, if at all any, green in this episode. The trees, it looks more like it's the middle of the winter. It's got kind of a gray tone to it. The trees don't have any leaves. It actually kind of looks almost scorched earth, soot, ash type stuff. From the tree bark to the ground to just like, it feels like the city in and of itself is kind of dirty and soot covered. And that vibe really works for what you're doing in the episode. And that vibe also allows you to play with other things on the planet, like this kind of mist or fog that rolls in. The cold open, spoilers, is Ahsoka oriented, and it involves that fog and mist, and watching her use that to her advantage throughout the course of the sequence. Really, really good stuff, and you don't get there without that setting. And then Caladan, in and of itself, is gorgeous. Yes, it looks kind of dirty and soot covered to a degree, and it's got a very gritty feel to it, but it's gorgeous, and the architecture and the style has such a heavy Asian influence. There are so many moments where I was like, am I watching a samurai movie? And when you have someone who's wielding a freaking laser sword, it would work to kind of have that vibe, and that look and feel that come from that culture mesh so well into the world of Star Wars in general, but so well into this episode. And what's cool is you have architecture that feels very Asian influenced, and a lot of what is in the city physically present has that vibe to it. But Filoni's not just looking to, go and steal a piece of like someone else's culture to give you a cool visual. He brings that in. And while we're not diving full on into the Asian culture in the episode, you populate the city with Asian extras and Asian actors, and you do visually give elements of that culture that just kind of enhance and give little accents to the episode, where it's like we're fully immersed into the story and what's going on. All the visuals behind it just really enhance what you're watching. And to debut Ahsoka in a city like this one really works from a visual standpoint, because it's not bright and sunny and happy. It's dark, so that always is going to work, because when you have lightsabers, they kind of light up, and we know Ahsoka's got bright white lightsabers. So to put her in a more dark place really allows those things to pop on screen. And then something that Dave Filoni doesn't do, but obviously credit to him and Favreau, because they brought in Ludwig Göransson. He's been scoring this thing from start right up to now. And the score, again, is really, really good here, because it has all those elements of what we know the Mandalorian score to have. But much like what he did with Black Panther, where you have a very kind of specific kind of synth sound going on, and then you bring in like these African drums and other, African music to add culture and subtext to that score. Göransson does that here as well. He brings in Asian-influenced music and sounds to the scoring that just, again, enhance the look and feel of the location that we're at, and all of that enhances the look and feel of what's going on contextually with inside the episode. Now, Ahsoka. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. So freaking good, man. Like, I told y'all, because 3 in the morning is really early, I haven't been recording myself, so I'm gonna reenact what I did when Ahsoka showed up on screen, man. I'm usually kind of reclined like this, even more so because I'm in my recliner when I'm watching these episodes, and you're sitting there and it starts, and I was just like, and that's the reaction that you want from the first time that Ahsoka Tano steps foot into a live action anything. And it did, man. It popped. If you're a wrestling fan, you talk about pop all the time. Like when Stone Cold comes out of retirement, The Rock comes back for the first time in a long time. That pop, the way the audience jumps up and just loses it. That's the kind of pop you get when Ahsoka shows up. Like if I was in a stadium full of 50,000 people, all reclined back, we all would have jumped up and freaked out. Because it looks like she's ripped right off of that animated screen, man. We all knew hiring Rosario was perfect from a casting standpoint, because she has that look and vibe, and what she can do seemed like it would really go well with that character. And first off, the look, spot on. I think we all knew that was going to happen, but when you actually put that look on Rosario, looked better than anything I could have imagined. And then when you have Rosario as your actor, oh my goodness, man, like she captures this character in a way that's so authentic, much like Katie Sackhoff did with Bo-Katan. Like, you would have thought Rosario had been voicing Ahsoka Tano for all these years. She really captured the character and captured the breadth of the character, right? Like, we live with Ahsoka through the Clone Wars. We're post-Empire by the time we get to the Mandalorian. A lot has happened, Order 66 has gone down. She's one of the few Jedi that survives that. She has to deal with losing all of her brethren. She's got to deal with her master going to the dark side and becoming the biggest bad of all time. She's got to handle and deal all these things. All this weight that would be on that character is present, man. Like, it feels like Rosario went through all those things. Like, you can tell she did her research to make sure that she synced up with that character perfectly, because that's the one you cannot miss on. She's too important, and she's too much of a fan favorite to you to miss any element of it. And Rosario doesn't. Like, you can tell she definitely put the time in to get into this character herself. And while she's able to carry all that weight and guilt and just kind of the heavy stuff that comes along with the story of Ahsoka, she's also able to give us that bright-eyed wonder that makes Ahsoka such a fun character. I mean, seeing her as a Padawan working with Anakin through all the Clone Wars, she is young, right? Like she feels much younger than everybody else, and she's got a look that's, her viewpoint is different than everybody else's, and she's got kind of a fiery funness to her, and the way that she enjoys everything she's doing. If you fast forward to where we are now in the story, yeah, it would make sense that like this isn't so much fun anymore for her, but all of that light still exists inside her, man. Some of the facial expressions Dawson gives us in the episode, convey that seriousness and dropping into that zone. When she gets ready to fight, man, she's like, she does one of these. That whole calming look that comes across Rosario's face, perfect. But that sense of wonder is in there too, specifically around the child. And Filoni does these wonderful things where he comes in on Rosario. And Rosario herself has these big, wonderful, beautiful eyes. Not quite as big as the animated characters, but big enough that when you press in, you actually recapture that feel that you get from that animated character. And then like little smirks or things, when she knows she's got something on somebody, she's like, oh, I got the drop on you because I see this and you don't see this. Again, something that you would get from the animated character that Rosario nails. There's one smirk in particular in this episode that just lit me up, man. I was like, oh, that was wonderful. And that whole sequence, like I said, the scene between the meeting of her and the Mandalorian is spectacular. And everything that goes into that scene, the whole way Filoni plays with it, is just wonderful. And at the end of the day, you end up with one of the best episodes that we have ever gotten in The Mandalorian. And before we wrap things up, two other actors that pop up in this. The Magistrate of Kaladin, who's played by Diana Lee Inosanto. Wonderful. Very small role, but one of those things where like you command presence. She's a magistrate, and when Inosanto walks on to the scene, you feel that, being conveyed through her, and her look is awesome. I love the look, and she has a thing, like a staff type thing that's with her, also really, really cool, and I like how that tied into the story as well. And then she gets a little bit of action, and nails that stuff. Like, really did a good job. I thought Inosanto popped quite well on screen for the little bit that she was given. And then Michael Biehn, who plays like her right-hand man, so to speak. He doesn't get a ton to do. He kind of, the droids that they have, he interacts directly with them a bunch, so you get kind of a couple nice, funny bits with them, and kind of also kind of working through the city a few times. But and he gets a whole bit with the Mandalorian. And that whole there's a whole back and forth with these two characters without ever talking that I just really liked. And, Biehn, like I said, is a small role, smaller than Inosanto's even, but he's given one moment and he crushes that one moment. Like, what he is doing in the scene, exactly what he should be doing in that scene. And there's also one other character who's one of the residents of the city who interacts with the Mandalorian a couple times, and I really dug those interactions. They were cool, like little one-offs where it was like, oh man, like the Mandalorian is helping out this whole situation that's going on without us realizing that that's what he's also doing. Like what goes down is kind of like a twofold thing, but the interactions that he has with this one character give you a really nice kind of like little cherry on top of the episode when you get to the end of it. And overall, I just really, really dug this episode. It gave me all the things I look for in The Mandalorian. It gave me all the things I look for in Star Wars. It debuted one of my favorite characters that exists in the universe to live action in a way where I was like, damn, that was better than even I thought it was going to be. And it gives us a ton of important information regarding this character, regarding what could be in store for this character and what's next for them. And Dave Filoni, I had no doubts, sir. And you surpassed all of my wildest expectations with this one. I was so satisfied. I was so happy. I was just ready for the Ahsoka show to come on right now, man. Give me 10 episodes of Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka, because God, I want to see that big screen debut. Like I said, like you get the movements and the action, but it's not quite like the pinnacle of what you could get out of that character, and I want to see it now on live action big screen. I swear I am. I want to see it exist over and over and over again. I love Rosario, and she crushed it. So I'm gonna stop talking, man. I'm blabbering like this is my freaking spoiler review. This is the non-spoiler. So now I know what you're thinking, man. What did you think of Chapter 13, The Jedi? First and foremost, did it give you everything you were looking for with Rosario Dawson playing Ahsoka? Did you get the action? Did you get the personality? Did you get the look and feel that you were expecting? Or was it even better than what you were expecting? What did you think of Corvus and Kaladin? Really, really cool planet. I like the design and the way it plays. Even there's some creatures, too, in the episode that we see. Cool stuff. So what did you think? What did you think of the set production design? What did you think of the ideas of using the mist and fog and how you were able to play with the setting to enhance the action and visuals that you were watching? And what did you think of the story for Mando and the Child this week? How important did this feel to you? How many big things were baked into what could be coming for these two characters? And then, how badly do you want to hear a spin-off series? Anything you're thinking good, bad, or indifferent about Chapter 13, down below in the comments section. As always, if you enjoyed this review and video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the old Seaman and the Child anytime we're talking Mandalorian. We got the spoiler review coming out later today. You want to be here for all that? You haven't yet? You want to show a little love and support to this old guy? We're a mere 24 subscriptions away from 1,000. If you haven't yet, man, please come join the C-Maniacs if you like what we're doing over here by jumping over there, hitting that subscribe button, hit that little bell if you want those alerts. And until next time, for the C-Mans, Cinema, Sit Down, this has been The Child. I have been the C-Man, and we are signing off. Peace. Well, as I live and breathe, you still here? Check out a video like this one, or this one, and hit the subscribe button so you can get alerts and check out everything the C-Man's got at the Cinema Sit Down.